Welcome back to Everything in Between. I have Danielle here with me. She's from the anxiety group chat that I'm a part of, and she's here to share her story. So, Danielle, wherever you want to start.
Alrighty, so I guess we can go ahead and start off like how it was for me growing up. Because for me, I've always had anxiety, like just the basics, like not wanting to go anywhere by myself, like definitely not being a part of some of the things that my friends wanted to do. Um, basically, so I didn't have like a bad childhood growing up necessarily. It was a little rough, but I think it's definitely something that's played into my anxiety, especially how it is today. But for starters, I kind of grew up in like a up and down kind of situation. So my dad was in the military for 20 years, so we did kind of bounce around a lot. He was always gone, so I was kind of left with whoever was there for the time being or whoever my dad was with at the time. So I had a um, I had a stepmom who was literally like terrible. I was always with her while my dad was deployed, and I noticed how, you know, kind of like verbally abusive she was, maybe sometimes physically, but she was just overall not a good person. So they were together for, I want to say, like 4 years. So during that time, I dealt with like her alcohol abuse. She was mentally and physically abusive, like put hands on me and everything. So it was really rough for me for those 4 years. Um, I did have depression for a while, and I was only like 12 years old. Um, but finally, fast forwarding to my dad getting out of the military, they got divorced. Thank God. We moved to Texas, where I literally started high school here. Um, it wasn't bad. High school was good. I did get into a few bad relationships that were also physically abusive, um, which also played in a lot to my anxiety. Um, but I guess fast forward a few more years, everything was fine. I still had normal anxiety. I wasn't experiencing what I was experiencing now. It's definitely something that has been an eye opener and a little traumatizing, not gonna lie. But let's see, let's see here. How it all started was, I don't know, I was driving to work one day and I noticed that my heart was starting to race and I was getting nervous. I don't know what I was nervous about. It might have happened to be something that I saw on the TV or the news that morning or the previous night before. And I have our police report on my Facebook, so I see literally everything that goes on in my town, like accidents, whatever. And getting into an accident is one of my biggest fears. I've already been in two of them, but they haven't been, they haven't been that bad. But that's one of my fears. So that morning, I had all of that racing in my head, and I didn't know what was going on at the time because I had never had a panic attack. So um, my heart started racing. I started shaking so bad, and I couldn't figure out what it was. So I was trying to get myself to calm down because, I mean, I didn't know at the time that it was nothing serious, but I literally just rolled all my windows down. It was like 40 degrees outside, turned the radio up, got to where I needed to go, and then I sat there and I contemplated on what just happened. Um, because I had never experienced something so intense before, and I didn't know, like, I didn't even know how to describe it to like my coworkers or my boyfriend. I just texted him that morning and said, I think I just had a panic attack. Um, so I spent my whole day just kind of thinking about what happened. And to me, I know that's not something that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to just kind of move forward after that. especially if that's your first time experiencing something like that. You don't want to dwell on it. But I did because it scared me. So that grew to me having a problem driving, especially by myself. And my job required me to drive every single day, um, especially riding in a car with other people. That was also one of my triggers. So it gradually became to the point where every morning I was having a panic attack and I would have to call my boyfriend or one of my coworkers and be like, "Can you just sit here on the phone with me and talk to me while I try to get from point A to point B?" Um, Same symptoms, heart racing, just shaking. I would have to have like the AC blowing cold at all times, or else I would just completely freak out. Um, then it grew more into not just happening while I'm driving or riding with somebody, but happening at home. Now, home is supposed to be your comfort place, your comfort zone, something that you feel safe in. But that was starting to become something that was kind of ruined for me, especially having my first panic attack at home. Um, so to me, I kind of, and it's weird to explain, and I know it sounds weird, but being in the environment that I'm in can also be a trigger because just of the way that the people are around me is completely different to the way that I was raised. Um, so I live with my boyfriend's parents, and our room is my comfort zone, or it was my comfort zone. So being in that room has led to me having panic attacks every single day, to where I was constantly having to come up with a strategy to make me feel more comfortable in here. Whether that be rearranging the room or saging. I know that sounds weird, but literally anything. Um, then it became where I was having them multiple times a day. I'm talking like heart racing, getting nauseous, dizzy, even losing my hearing for a split second, completely freaking out. And I didn't know what to do. Like, nobody around me could really understand what was going on, even though, like, you can try to explain it to them the best you can, but nobody will really know unless they experience it themselves. So it's definitely like kind of an isolating and scary situation. Um, so after that, after maybe like 4 months, I finally got myself into therapy. Um, I had one therapist who I don't want to badmouth them, but it did nothing for me. They pretty much told me that I needed to be like in an outpatient program and that they couldn't do anything for me because of how severe my anxiety was. So that made it worse. But I got myself to just do some more research, look for a good therapist, and I found one. And she's been great so far. But apparently, you have to have anxiety for at least 6 months before you even think about seeing a therapist, which is ridiculous. So I was here struggling with panic attacks for 6 months, every single day. Um, so I got her. She's been great. I've been learning like new techniques, new coping skills, whether that be like the breathing or the tapping techniques, or even doing like essential oils, just something that wouldn't require me to be on medication just yet. Um, let's see. I was gonna say something else, but I forgot.
So what's the tapping technique?
The
If you
tapping technique is kind of like it sends a signal to your brain. So um, you can tap on your temples, like your left temple, your right temple. You can tap on your forehead, your chest, your throat. It kind of just sends that signal. It distracts your brain because your brain can only think of so many things at once. Um, so it's kind of like a distraction technique. The breathing exercises don't necessarily work for me. It causes me to just kind of freak out more because I'm more focused on my
right.
breathing. Um, so the tapping, especially when I'm trying to fall asleep at night, and at night it's 10 times worse because your brain is just racing. Just lay there and do the tapping. I usually do it on my temple just to kind of, I guess, give myself something to feel. I don't know. It's weird. Um, That or my main thing is sleeping with an ice pack
Hmm.
because that cold just kind of shocks your body back into like I guess reality. Um, or cold water, anything cold. Like I will take cold showers. I completely avoid hot showers because it just I guess overwhelms me. I don't know. There's so many different triggers that I have come to realize, ever since I started experiencing panic attacks. Like now I kind of struggle going out in public, like to a grocery store, because it is overstimulating sometimes, or I don't know, being in places that I don't recognize or have never been to before. But the whole like driving situation has gotten a little bit better, especially me riding in the passenger seat. It's very important to kind of get yourself into exposure therapy, um, which is just exposing yourself to the things that trigger you pretty much. So, starting out with baby steps, of course, you don't want to push yourself too much, but that's what I've been doing. Just riding around in the passenger seat, even like it doesn't matter where, like 5 minutes down the road, it can be 30 minutes down the road. I have to like kind of distance myself, but that is something that I'm working on. The next step would be to actually start driving. Um, and then getting used to going to places that are overwhelming.
Yeah.
Um, and that's all I have right now. My brain just
No,
farted.
you're okay. I think the more you avoid the fear, obviously, the bigger it is. So exposure therapy is definitely the way to go. You know, at least you can look at it.
Yeah.
But each little baby step you get, the fear gets smaller and smaller, or at least
Mhm.
that's how it's supposed to work. And you mentioned taking cold showers. I don't know if I could ever do that. Like,
Oh
I,
my
I
goodness. It's
love hot showers, and I definitely get scared in there, especially when I'm like putting on my shampoo. I feel like
yeah.
that
You feel
moment.
trapped.
Yeah, I feel, I don't know, it's going to seep into my brain, or it's going to get into my eyes, or I'm just going to not be able to breathe. And, during that moment, it would be hard to get to the phone or to call for help. And I wonder if I should start taking cold showers.
I would definitely try it. I know it sounds weird and it doesn't have to be like extremely cold. Like you don't want to just send yourself into shock, but
Right.
I do that, and then if I'm going to take like a warm shower, I usually take like the peppermint essential oil and just kind of like sprinkle it on the wall just to kind of like
Hmm.
help you breathe better.
That's
Um
interesting.
it relaxes you. It honestly does. That I have found to help a little bit, or just even like keeping the shower curtain open a little bit just so you can like see. You can
Right.
still see out there.
The exit, yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I definitely go through stages where I can barely get myself out of bed to take a shower or to even eat something because your anxiety can make you so nauseous and feel physically sick that you don't want to do anything. Um, I, for me, it's kind of a roller coaster. It's an up and down type of thing where, you know, you struggle to live your day-to-day life, which it sucks and that's not something that you're supposed to experience. But there comes a time where you just kind of have to, I guess, buckle up and accept the fact that this is something that you're going through. It's not permanent, it's temporary. And anything that you do to try and help yourself counts. So, like I said, the baby steps, it doesn't matter. Even getting out of bed is a step. Um, but yeah, I find myself sometimes where there's days where I don't even want to go to work. Um, I will usually take a few days off, even though I'm not supposed to. And it's really frustrating because sometimes, you know, when it comes to work, your bosses don't necessarily understand that um, it is a mental health type of thing. So when you have anxiety or panic disorder or, anything that affects your ability to concentrate or think, it becomes a problem and they don't understand that. And then you have to find, like, for me personally, this is what I'm dealing with right now, is finding ways that I can work around my anxiety and still make the people around me happy. Um,
There was a time where, at least for me when my anxiety first started, where, Thanksgiving was in the living room and I'm in my bedroom freaking out and I don't show up for Thanksgiving dinner. And, I also, last year I was able to beat anxiety for a little bit and I had a job and, they would come at me strong or sort of intimidating of like, you need to make sure you don't miss days or whatever if I were to call out. But the moment I, was just honest with them and said, look, like, I haven't worked in 5 years. Like, this job is sort of a tester for me, and, I'm not going to jeopardize my health for you guys. And,
right.
as soon as you are adamant about that, they kind of back off. I don't know if that's the same in your situation where, you try to tell them what's going on and maybe they keep pushing. I don't really know.
Oh, yeah. Like, there have been times where I'm in the middle of a call and something they say or just the way that they talk to me or their attitude, whatever, sets me off. And I need to step away after that call, obviously. And I'll let them know, like, I'm not just going to get up and leave, but I'll let them know, like, hey, I am having a panic attack. I need to take at least like 10 minutes. Just let me breathe. And they'll be like, oh, okay, well, don't be gone for too long. Or, well, maybe you can just take, like, just walk away for a second and then come back as quick as you can. And to me, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Like, for me personally, it takes at least 30 minutes to an hour to to completely calm down from a panic attack, because that's how severe they can be sometimes. And I've missed so many days at this point to where they're telling me, like, you can't miss any more days. Like, I have my PTO and they're telling me you can use your PTO, but don't use it too fast. And I'm like, well, I can't really work around that right now because I have anxiety. So right now, I don't know if other companies have this, but they have, like, the Family Medical Leave Act where um, you can take off whenever you want to, pretty much. But I don't. I didn't get accepted for that. So now they're pretty much just beating around the bush at this point and trying to get me to do, like, another program that they have, which is called ADA. I don't know what it stands for, but um, it's only like they only kind of guarantee you, if you're lucky, like 4 days a month where you can take off. And my therapist is trying to get me to take a full month off just to kind of, I guess, work on myself and then do a re-evaluation to see if I'm even, like, capable to go back, and then kind of go from there. But it's not even like 40%. There's like a 40% chance that they'll even accept that. So I've been trying to, find ways to deal with it, like maybe even getting a new job that isn't as stressful as this, because with this one, I'm constantly on the phone taking calls. I have sales goals to meet, which is, typical in a job, obviously. But with the way this company is, you constantly have people breathing down your neck. I work from home, but they can still see everything that I'm doing. And it's gotten to the point where I'm having, like, coachings with my manager, maybe like 2 or 3 times a week based off of my performance. And that to me is a trigger, because you have somebody sitting here, like you said, coming at you all big and tall, like, you need to do this and this and this, or it's going to lead to, like, termination. Which obviously would make anybody feel like trash. Um, so I don't want to completely just up and quit my job, because I do have a life. I do have bills to pay. I'm trying to change my environment. My boyfriend and I just got an apartment. We're moving in 2 weeks. So I'm trying to stick it out and see, like, maybe if me being in a better environment will help the work situation, or if I change the work situation. I don't know, but I'm constantly like finding ways to manage. Because if, like you said, if it's affecting your mental health, then you need to get rid of it. It's not worth it.
Have you ever thought about what's your thought on meds?
I I'm a little skeptical just because I don't like taking medication, whether it be Advil or, cough medicine. I don't like it. I was prescribed medication from a psychiatrist maybe a couple weeks ago, and I still have yet to take it because me being me, and anyone having anxiety, you're gonna look up that medication on Google and do the
Right.
whole like WebMD process, go through the comments and everything, and I don't want to bring myself to experience what could possibly happen while you're taking that medication. Like, I don't want to feel like a zombie, and I don't want to constantly be tired or it have like a negative impact on me. Even with me taking the meclizine, it's still like I have to force myself to take it sometimes because it just it scares me because you never know how it's going to affect your body. Everybody's different.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I used to smoke, weed or whatever, and um, one of the last times that I smoked, I had a panic attack or a bad trip, and I've been clean for now 12 years, so I'm pretty good at avoiding stuff, and I definitely don't want to feel not like myself or weird in any way. Like anything that changes, you know, my not necessarily my vision, but just me at all. Any difference, I notice it, and I freak out, and it takes me forever to take a Tylenol. Like, if I have a
Yeah.
headache, I will take a hot shower. I'll eat spicy ramen and try to burn it out of my brain, and I'll try to have my wife give me a head massage or whatever,
Mhm.
and then I'll take the Tylenol. But I'll take one, not the two that you're supposed to take, just the one.
I'm I'm exactly the same way. I'm more of like, no, I'll just like suffer through it or
Right.
go natural and trying to find natural ways to deal with it. Like, that's why I started trying the ashwagandha drops a while back, and my medication is literally my last resort because, like you said, I don't want to feel like not myself because, again, like, yeah, you notice every single thing that goes on in your body. And the minute that I notice something off, I'm going to completely freak out. Like, the meclizine is manageable, but the minute it starts affecting like the way my heart beats or the way that I'm feeling, like my dizziness and my me being nauseous, like, no, that just freaks me out.
I think 10 years ago, I dislocated my shoulder, and I had to go to the emergency room to like have them yank it back into place. But during that whole like ambulance ride over there, and just laying there in the hospital bed waiting for them to do it, I was in the most pain I've ever experienced in my life. And, they came and asked me at least 5 times, do you want anything for the pain? And I'm like, nope, I will sit here in agony and I'm not getting high. So,
Yeah, so on that topic, just to kind of piggyback off of that, so I actually went to the hospital for one of my panic attacks that I had because it felt like I had never experienced anything like that before. Like, I was just laying in bed doing my thing on TikTok, and I got so dizzy to the point where it felt like the room was like just completely collapsing on me. So I stood up really quick. My It felt like I was going to pass out. And I've never felt like that during a panic attack, so it scared me. I thought I was dying.
mm-hmm.
Um I don't know if anybody has ever experienced this, but I got like that metallic taste in my mouth, and my tongue got like all prickly and just like tingly and weird. And my whole body just went numb. And I was like, we need to go right now. My heart was beating at a million times an hour. So we finally get there. I'm still like trying to calm myself down before I even walk into the freaking emergency room. But as soon as we walked in, it just immediately got worse. So I'm sitting here trying to hurry up, put my information in. I'm still convinced that I'm dying, like I'm gonna just drop dead in the freaking
Yes, you're like,
waiting
why
room.
am I writing papers? Save me, Jesus.
I know. So I'm constantly like turning to my boyfriend, like, is my face red? Like, do I look okay? Like, it felt like it was a million degrees in there. And so they finally call my name what felt like an hour later, and
Jesus.
they were like, uh, do you have any pain in your leg? Blah blah blah. I was like, no, like I don't have any pain. I think I'm just having like a panic attack. And I was like, I can't bring my heart rate down. Like I can't calm myself down right now because I'm constantly getting dizzy. And they're like, okay, well, let's go run some EKGs on you. I have never in my life had an EKG done. So I was already like through the roof panicking. So um they do like the test literally took like 2 minutes, so I don't even think they got like a good reading. So I'm like nervous just talking about this. They went and sat me down in like this back room and whatever, and this nurse was asking me a bunch of questions, like like, have you always had anxiety? Have you had a panic attack before? And I'm like, yes, 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 yes. Um, they what did they do? They told me that they were gonna have to give me something to lower my heart rate because nothing at that point was working. So they didn't tell me what it was, but I had to like,
Bastards.
yeah, I had to pry it out of them. I was like, what are you giving me? Like, what is it gonna do? And they were like, oh, we're giving you Ativan. I was like, oh, I've heard of that stuff before, and I don't think I want to even like go through that. So I decided to anyways because at that point I was just worried about getting my heart rate down because it was so high. So they gave me that an IV, and it felt like it made my dizziness like 10 times worse. I couldn't even walk. So they went and like gave me x-rays on my lungs to make sure I didn't have any like blood clots or anything. They ran a bunch of blood tests, um, did some more EKGs. I think my heart rate reached max like 143. I know that might not be too high, but that freaked me out. And like just being hooked up to the monitor and just watching, oh my gosh. Anyways, I was still hopped up on this freaking Ativan stuff, completely feeling like disoriented. Like it was like an out of body experience. It didn't wear off. I probably slept for 2 days on and off, but um, everything came back normal. They told me, yeah, it's just anxiety, like every other place does. They told me I had vertigo, prescribed me that meclizine, um, and then I just went home after that, and I that made me realize like I don't want to be put on any medication for this at all because it's just gonna make it worse, and it does make it worse for some people. And you know, if it's not worse for you, 9 times out of 10, you're in a freaking coma because these pills are gonna knock you out.
I think for some, it's they talk about chemical imbalances and they have to adjust, whatever science stuff. But I really do think, for some of us, we've had a traumatic experience and we, have a very severe panic attack, and then just from there we realize how vulnerable we are to it,
Yeah.
and we're terrified of it, and every little thing that goes off we freak ourselves out, and then now our whole world is terror. And it's not necessarily a chemical imbalance. It could just be, like I said, a learned behavior. And if you can think your way into it, you should be able to think your way out of it. And at least I hope that's the case for us. You mentioned having a bad therapist earlier, and I definitely had a bad therapist. I felt I try to be nice, so like
Yeah.
she would just repeat things back to me, and she was not helpful at all. Like she would just repeat things I'm saying, and um, I sat through maybe 10 sessions with her, just like hating it and knowing that this isn't helping me. Luckily, though, So I had this bad therapist in between. So I mentioned that like a year ago or so I had beaten my anxiety, and I beat it with the therapist that I actually have now. I ended up getting her back, so I'm really happy about that. So how often do you see your therapist?
So the one that I have now, I see her once a week. Um,
That's good.
yeah, she has definitely been a big help. We've maybe only had like 4 or 5 sessions, but she, like, every time I talk to her and like end my therapy session, I feel 100 times better.
I think I've
So,
mentioned to you before the progressive muscle relaxation, right? And you already knew what that was. Or am I mistaken?
describe it to me and I could tell you.
So basically, it's a guided meditation. You squeeze your hands. Well, you lay down, you close your eyes, you squeeze your hands, you focus on the tension, and you release. And then you do it with
You
your
know,
arms and your shoulders.
I actually did that today while I was doing the exposure therapy, and it helped a lot.
Did she show you that? Did you learn that from her? Or?
No, you told me that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought I thought I had told you, and you're like, yeah, I already knew that, but I might be misremembering.
The meditation, yes, but for me, I don't really like thinking about it being meditation because I'm not really good at meditation, but it definitely helped just kind of like not laying down, but just kind of sitting back with my eyes closed and just balling my fists up pretty much. That seemed to relax me for some reason more than anything else could.
Well, the thing is I would actually ask your therapist to do it with you potentially if she could, because if you can get the full like guided situation. I mean, I guess if you watched the video, you kind of did, but there is one with the full body where you start with your feet and you go all the way up to your head. But the idea is that I mean, we're overthinkers, right? That's probably why we have anxiety in the first place. Is we overthink everything, and
Mm-hmm.
imagining ourselves on a beach. At least for me, I'm agoraphobic, so imagine myself not in my house. That's not good. But like you said, the focusing on your breath stuff really doesn't help you because you're freaking out about your breath. But the idea is that with anxiety, we feel these physical symptoms of our heart's going or it's hard to breathe, and we're just feeling panic physically. Like obviously it's a thought and it's a feeling, but we're having real symptoms. So being able to focus something that's physical, that's in your control, and yeah, I mean, it helps me a lot too.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, it makes me worry a little bit like once everyone, does get over that anxiety. I saw somebody comment this earlier, but it does feel like, when you are calm and you're not overthinking, it feels weird. Like you forgot how to, you forgot how, what it feels like to just be 100% relaxed. That to me kind of makes me panic even more because I'm like, what's wrong? Like, there's definitely something that I need to be thinking about right now. And there's not.
Yeah.
It's just something that we have in our heads now because we spend literally 24/7 in fight or flight mode sometimes, and it's hard to kind of like, I guess, break that habit.
Best way I've been able to describe that situation is I feel like I'm crossing the street, but I forgot to look both ways, and at any moment I'm about to get hit with whatever it is I'm forgetting, but I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be remembering something. And um, often I feel chest pain or just slight aches, and when I feel absolutely nothing, like fine and good, it is weird. You feel lighter, and you're like, wait, something's wrong. Something's wrong because
Exactly.
there's nothing wrong, and that's just, yeah.
Yeah.
Am I numb now? Am I losing feeling? Is that what's wrong?
Exactly, and that brings it back to the medication. Like I know some people need it to, you know, to survive pretty much. But I have heard stories where people just feel completely numb to anything, like emotion or anything around them, and I don't want to feel like that. I don't.
Yeah, for the most part, I think, besides my crazy irrational fears, I kind of like who I am, and I don't want to, you know,
Change that.
yeah. I mean, I don't want to get dizzy either. So there's lots of symptoms, you know.
There is. It's never ending, but it's kind of like a constant battle between you have to remind yourself like nothing is wrong. This is just kind of, this is what you're dealing with and you have to let it run its course, but gosh, it's like it's so frustrating to even explain like you're going through a panic attack, but you have to remind yourself you're fine, nothing's wrong, like you're not dying.
Right.
But then you just keep going back and forth, back and forth.
You mentioned having peppermint in your showers to help you breathe better. Sometimes when we leave a candle on, like, and I can smell something, I don't know, I feel like all the time I can't breathe. So when I can smell something nice, it's like, thank God I can breathe. You know, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like you get used to the way your room smells or whatever, and like there's nothing telling you other than the fact that I guess you're still alive, that you're breathing correctly. So I wonder if like you know keeping smelly stuff around, maybe even your work desk, would be helpful.
I do. I have a what is it called? A wax warmer where I have like lavender melting all the time and I even leave it on at night sometimes. So that that helps a little bit. It definitely does. And then I have, which I definitely recommend. I don't know if it's in every store, but it's aromatherapy by Dr. Teal's. It's a stress relief spray, and it has like eucalyptus, citrus, and spearmint. You can spray this on, like, if you're going to bed, you can spray this on your pillow, your blanket, whatever. And that to me just kind of eases my mind and it helps me fall asleep.
Especially like the smell stuff. Like I have
Yeah.
not done that. Like I said, randomly maybe we'll light a candle or something, but I haven't not gone out of my way to make sure that I can, smell things, and that might actually be a really good idea. I need to look into that.
You do. You know, I, not to sound weird or anything, but I definitely do think that aromatherapy works. Because, like I said, you're giving your brain something else to focus on. And you're right, it does kind of help you breathe because you're smelling something other than what you're used to. Um, so to me, it just relaxes me. It calms me down because especially like when it comes time for bed, I start to freak out because I'm always scared like something's gonna happen in my sleep or something. But once I spray this stuff and like I have to have background noise, so a TV, like a favorite TV movie, a favorite movie going on, and the fan like on full blast. I'm knocked out.
I can't sleep without the fan on. I like if
Yes,
there's silence, I just hear like ringing in my ears, and I,
it's too quiet. Yeah.
yeah. You mentioned that aromatherapy works, and my immediate thought to that was I think everything works. Like
Hmm.
when I would try random things like meditation or whatever, when I used to think about doing it, I would just think this is stupid, this isn't gonna work, it's a waste of my time. And when you go into anything like that, it is like it won't work. You have to give it a chance. Like our our brains are hyper focused on what's happening to us, and anything that you can do to successfully distract yourself is the cure to anxiety at the time. Like as long
Yeah.
as you're not thinking about it, then it works. So yeah, whatever's the most distracting thing for you, as long as it's not like stabbing yourself, then definitely a good thing. Which is actually kind of funny because I was on a bike ride maybe 3 weeks ago, and no, not 3 weeks ago, 3 years ago, not three, but I had like this really intense headache, and I was riding my bike, and a car like was in my vicinity or whatever, and I had to slam on my brakes, and my body shifted forward into the handlebars, and I actually got cut on my thigh. Like there was a pretty decent gash, but my headache went away. And I was like crying happy tears because I've had this freaking headache for like a week and it's been severe. And don't hurt yourself, guys. But yeah, just
I know. It definitely does kind of give your brain something else to think about. That's what did they say? Like if your knee hurts, then hit yourself in the arm or
right.
something.
Yeah, I try to do stuff like that.
Yeah, I there's literally 100 different ways that I've tried to, cope with stuff like writing in a journal or reading a book. I actually have a book about anxiety that gives you different ways to cope with it. Um, but I feel like if you're doing something physical like writing or like you do podcasts, it it helps distract you and it makes you feel like at the end of it makes you feel 100% better. Um, so that's definitely something that I suggest to everybody. Like if you're struggling, especially with like overthinking, just write it down. Um, write it, put a pen to paper, and then close the book and forget about it.
Yeah, I also think you should try to identify, what is it that triggers you? Because, like me, being alone, being in a car, being too far away, I know when I'm alone, I need to, or I don't need to, but my brain tells me I need to make sure someone's available so I could call them if I had to. And when I get in the car, I have like 5 backup plans because, like, that's basically my worst fear. So I'm agoraphobic. It's hard to leave my house, but my mom lives 5 minutes away, and you know, every time we get into the car, even though it's only 5 minutes, it's like I'm on the verge of panic the entire time. So
Mm-hmm.
what I'll do is I'll try to sit up straight at first. Like I'll try to be present in the moment, face my fear, whatever. But I'll be in the back seat because there's more room back there. But if I start to feel anxious, I'll have like a motivational video ready to play, not playing, but ready to play, and I'll have my headphones on. So if I feel anxious, I'll start to play that video. If I start feeling more anxious, I'll lay down, like in the back seat. And if I feel anxious after that, I'll try to like play a game on my phone. And by the time I've gone through every backup plan, I'm where I'm supposed to be because it's only 5 minutes. So it's never good to use your last resort, and that for me the big nuke or whatever, the final the last resort is the meditation thing where you squeeze your fist or whatever. So I don't use it too often just because I don't want it to like lose its
Effect.
right, yeah. So as long as I haven't used that, at least in the back of my mind, I know I still have another way out. And
Oh, yeah. I I definitely agree with that, especially having like making sure somebody's available so you can call them if you need something. That is me 24/7, especially if I'm alone. Like if I know I'm going to be home alone all day, that just immediately sends me into a panic. So I understand where you're coming from, and sometimes it does help to have somebody available to just talk you out of it. But we have to come to terms with that's not always going to be the case. Um, driving, like if I'm riding in a car, I do have like a playlist specifically for, um, songs that I like that make me feel comfortable and just kind of relieve my anxiety. So I'll put that on, and then I do have like I keep like 3 fidget spinners handy just in case. But I definitely do find that sitting up straight and just being in the moment helps. But to me, like I can't always use my phone as a distraction because it kind of makes it worse in a way. So I just like to not necessarily like I don't want to say raw dogging, but literally
no,
raw
go
dogging
ahead.
the feeling, and just accepting for what it is, but also reminding yourself like this is normal. It's fine to feel like this, but the more you do it and the more you expose yourself to it, it's going to be okay. And if you do have to lay in the back seat and, do
Cry.
the meditation or um, have your motivational video out, as long as you're, I guess, exposing yourself to what it is you're going through, especially driving. Like, I don't know. I don't want to say like don't use it, but I would probably suggest like maybe going maybe trying to go the 5 minutes without one of those things.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's important to have backup plans so you feel confident, But if you don't have to use them, you absolutely should not use them because you need to
Yeah.
get used to them not being there. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
But with beating it last year or whatever, I never really played that video. Like that's all I had. That was really the only coping technique that I used back then. But just knowing that I could gave me the confidence. Not using it, but just knowing it's there. So, I mean, in reality, the best thing you can do is find 50 things you know work for you and don't use any of them unless you have to. But
Yeah.
you have 50 to go through before your last resort, and with that, you should be able to do most stuff.
Yeah. And then eventually you just won't need it at all.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a process, and it's not something that's going to just automatically happen. And I think, every single one of us in this group has accepted that. But
Almost everybody.
like you said, though, it is nice to know that that backup is there, like for the group. And if you're in a situation like us and you don't like being home alone, you know that that group is there, but maybe try not to use it.
No, I agree. I mean, there's lots of times where my wife will leave, and I mean, most of the time I probably announce it to the chat just in case. But I try to just see how I am first. Like,
Yeah.
it's important. It's important to test yourself, stretch. Because if you are constantly avoiding, as I do, your fear and the chances you have to face it, especially when my wife leaves for work, it's important to just try, like don't immediately go to your safe place or go run to your room and hide under the blanket. See how you feel first. You could go run, but you at least should try to stretch around a little bit and see what it feels like.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm not saying like the situation that you're in is bad. It's just more so like if you don't if you if you don't expose yourself to the things that make you feel the way that you do, then you're going to kind of dig yourself into that hole, and you're going to find yourself not being able to get out of it eventually.
Yeah.
And nobody wants that for anybody.
Yeah, there's a big difference between like anxiousness and panic. Like there's like I could be anxious all day.
Mm-hmm.
But a panic attack, it's like I just got into a fist fight, and a fist fight that's I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense. There's just a whole nother ball game. Like
Yeah.
it's what I'm anxious about is having the
It,
panic attack.
yeah.
Like that's what I'm afraid of in the first place.
And explaining that to people, especially your therapist, because they always like to ask, like, well, what makes you anxious? And I was like, well, Miss Ma'am, I'm scared of having another panic attack. That's what I'm focused on. That is why I have anxiety.
So what do you think are your like top things you're afraid of or top triggers?
My top, like my main trigger would have to be being alone. One of them is, the second one would definitely have to be driving. Third thing would have to be work. Work is definitely a trigger for me. And then, not necessarily being out in public, but being out in public sometimes.
So I'm just curious. I would actually be curious to go through these with you. What do you think is like when you're alone? What are you afraid of by being alone? Like, what's the worst thing that's gonna happen to you? At least in your mind.
For me, it's more so I don't want to have a panic attack when I'm by myself because, they're scary. And when you're having a panic attack, you think that there's something wrong. I don't want myself to have a panic attack and there actually be something wrong, and then me not have anybody to get a hold of or somebody that could get to me in a timely manner just in case.
I mean, that's the same for me, and I'm assuming with driving or at work or in public, you don't want to have a panic attack while you're in the car because you can't leave the car, or in public
Yep.
because everyone will see you, and at work because, you're supposed to be talking to people and not freaking out, so you feel like you have to be there and not panic, and that's, you're thinking about not panicking, which is making you panic.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It all goes back to panic attacks.
So, when do you think this, like, being afraid of fear itself started for you? Because I know you said you were anxious as a kid, but when do you think you were aware that fear is the thing you're afraid of?
I would say maybe like a month after experiencing panic attacks.
And that was
Um,
7 months ago?
yeah, it was about 7 months ago now.
I mean, I'm obviously not a doctor, but I do think the definition of agoraphobia is the fear of fear. And um, that's definitely who I'm talking to right now. And then you seem very similar to me in what you are afraid of. Um, the only thing I can say is just like, don't. Don't do it. Like, don't be me. Don't. Like, I've been in this for 6 years. I avoided everything. I thought I was going to die. I thought I was dying for the first 3 years. So you're already ahead of me in that part. You're already seeing a therapist. You know it's anxiety. I didn't see a therapist for like the first 4 or 5 years. I just thought death, and I wasn't going anywhere, and virtual therapy or whatever wasn't a thing. COVID made that a reality for me, but like, don't let it get, like, obviously it potentially could be already as big as it is for me, but I don't know.
Well, in that perspective, like I understand people who don't want to see a therapist because, it does kind of sound silly to some people, but for me it kind of scared me because I had it in my head like I was going to feel like this forever. And then it started affecting the way that I lived my life and, maybe even a little bit of my relationship because, it sucks having one person wanting to go here and do this and then you be like, "Oh, well, I don't think I can make it that far," or "I don't know if I can handle being around that many people." Um, so after I realized everything that it was doing to me and the people around me, and especially bringing my depression back, I was like, "No, like I don't want to feel like this anymore. Um, I need to get help."
I mean, I'm just impressed that like you knew right away that it was anxiety and panic.
Oh yeah, like I don't know. I didn't necessarily like think anything was actually wrong with me. Just because I always tell myself like if it was gonna happen, it would have happened by now. Um, but obviously, talking to other people who have experienced stuff like that, especially joining different groups on Facebook and seeing like what everybody goes through and what everybody experiences like symptom wise, I'm like, okay, well, that kind of sounds like what I have. So not to self-diagnose or anything, but
I
you
did.
know, yeah, exactly. Like you,
I've said I am agoraphobic, and when I went to see the psychiatrist, he was like, "Yep."
see, exactly. But obviously, like I did my research a lot because I wanted to know what the heck was going on and what was wrong with me. So that's the big reason why I went to see a therapist is to actually, you know, have, I guess, a second opinion of somebody who is actually licensed to do so. Um, and that's when they diagnosed me with generalized anxiety disorder and depression.
I would honestly take that a step further and say that you're agoraphobia, or you're agoraphobic. And obviously, I'm not a doctor, but like, you have every fear that I have. We have the exact same mindset. I've just avoided it longer than you, and I'm just happy to hear that you're already on it. Like I said, it took me 5 years to see a therapist or even believe that it was anxiety, because like, I always thought growing up, I just, I had a level head, and something like that can never happen to me because I'm just, aware of myself and my surroundings. And if, something like this is happening to me, I'm definitely dying.
Yeah.
Um, but I was too afraid to go to doctors because I was convinced that, like, they were gonna tell me, oh well, you have a brain tumor and you got like 3 months to live, and I definitely didn't want to hear
Oh
that,
god.
and I would rather not know. So
That's what I say.
yeah.
Especially a brain tumor. I always ask my boyfriend, I'm like, do you think do you think I have this wrong, or do you think it's this? And he's just like, no. And I'm like, okay, you're right, you're right. Like, if I went to the doctor, they would have caught it by now. Um, but no, that's exactly that is especially how it starts out at, because I mean, to me, I feel like it's kind of like 50-50. Like, part of it was passed down to me from my dad, but I've tried talking to him about it, and he has anxiety and he has whatever, like PTSD, but he has never experienced panic attacks. And I was like, well, why me then? Because it feels like, at the time it feels like you're the only one going through what you're going through. So that was kind of like another push for me to get help, because I don't know, my dad is kind of like the type where, like, oh, it's just anxiety, like, just walk it off. Stop listening to your brain, stop listening to your head. And I'm like, it's become more than that. Like, I have no control over it at this point.
So, obviously, we affect people, or people notice us. They just, our people want us to feel better. And, I feel like everyone gave me the right answer. Like, that is your dad gave you the right answer. But it's,
Yeah.
it's a lot harder than that. Like, obviously, we're doing this to ourselves. It's in our head. We overthink. And that's 100% the complete problem right there. And there's this idea that, like, therapy is, kind of dumb and less or whatever. But to those people, I would say that, you know, all therapy is trying to put logic to your emotions. And, if I feel like the type of person that would say, walk it off, or therapy might not be that helpful. That's exactly what they want you to do in the first place, is put logic to your thoughts. And that's what therapy's there for you to do. So it's like, I don't know, just a weird thought there.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, that's exactly what you need to do, but some of us kind of need to hear it from somebody else and just need a little bit more of a push, other than just,
It's it's not only we need to hear it from someone else, we need to believe it ourselves. Like,
yeah,
that's what therapy really is. It's trying to get you to get to the correct answer. Um,
right.
yeah, I mean, if it comes from somebody else, especially, like, I don't know, like, I've had quite a few people tell me the exact same thing I ended up believing in the end. Um, that it was anxiety, or what to do about it, and I just didn't listen to them. And you really have to, like I said, believe it yourself. I had another question for you, and that is, what's your support system look like? Like, who's there for you, and you know,
Excuse me. I honestly, sorry,
it's all right. Just
I
dying. It's okay.
choke on my own spit. It's fine. I honestly have a great support system. Um, I found that opening up to, you know, family, especially about what's actually going on with you, helps them better understand, like, what they need to do to help out or make you feel more at ease. Like, I have, I have my boyfriend. He's, always been a big help. And then I have his parents, who I just recently told them what was going on. And then um, I have, obviously, I have the group, and then I have my parents. So I'm definitely not alone, um, which is great. It's been a big help.
Do you think?
But
Do you think when
go
you
ahead.
told your boyfriend's parents that was like a weight lifted off? Was that like a positive experience?
Yes and no. My boyfriend's stepmom is the type of person to, I guess, have, like, a good head on her shoulders, and doesn't necessarily believe in anxiety. um,
Well, good. I wish I didn't.
I know, that's what I said. I was like, well, not all of us are wired that way, but um, I guess her seeing the way that it actually made me feel kind of helped her better understand, like, what it's like for people to experience stuff like that. So, I mean, like, just small things. Like, if she leaves the house, she'll come knock on my door and tell me, hey, I'm leaving. You can either, come with me, or you can just stay here. Call me if you need anything. That to me is has in itself been so much better for me. Uh, and then obviously my dad is going to be my dad and just, oh, well, do whatever you need to. um, but my stepmom, she's great. I love her. She is part of my backup plan. So if I ever like, if she's my last resort, she is always there for me. So if I need to call her during a panic attack, she's the one to go to.
Yeah, I feel like when I'm around people that I'm not comfortable with, or I feel like I have to hide it, I'm more anxious. So when I'm honest with people, at least that I'm around, hey, this is my situation, and if I freak out, I'm sorry, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I definitely feel a lot better. Like, there was a while there where I felt like I had to, try to hide it from my stepdad, and, it made me more anxious, but, like, maybe 3 months ago or so, he was giving me a ride home from my mom's house, and it was just me and him, and I started to feel anxious, and I realized, I don't want to freak out in front of him, and those thoughts made me freak out in front of him. And I was like, I can't breathe, you need to pull over. And it was a very strange experience. And he pulled over instantly. He gave me some Gatorade because I felt like I couldn't swallow or whatever. And after that, after him being there for me, it's just been a lot more comfortable to be around him. Because when you're around people that you feel like, like you mentioned, you're afraid of being out in public, and we can't explain to the public, hey, everyone in the world, just so I might freak out, and if you guys could all, everyone in the world, just be there for me.
Yeah.
When we feel like we have to hide it, it where it's constantly in our thought, and it makes it more likely to happen. So I do think it's important. People are ashamed of it. A lot of people are ashamed of it, and I think that's really sad. I think, the more open about it you are, like, I don't know, I feel like
The
mental health used to be like this big stigma, but I'm always hearing, like, jobs are giving, like my wife, she's been having panic attacks, and they gave her 2 weeks off of work, and I feel like when I was working, that's not a reality. So I think it's important to, just be open and honest, and not hide it from people. And people are good. Like, as much as people are selfish, and you're probably gonna tell someone and they're gonna be like, shut the fuck up, get over it.
yeah.
you know there's probably quite a few more people that are just going to try to help you. And I feel like everyone wants to be helpful, and be a hero, and feel good about themselves. And in reality, you're just giving them that opportunity, like, to take care of you. And you may not want to be taken care of, and that make you feel weak or less or whatever. But if you're trying to get over anxiety, like, this is a gigantic hill, and we need all the help we can get.
Literally. Yeah. Um I feel the same way. And I know even just telling people about it is a big step, but I agree with you. Like, as soon as you do, you're going to feel 100% better. Um, and when it comes to like going out places and being in public, like a grocery store, 9 times out of 10, there's maybe like 20 other people in there that feel the same way.
Yeah. And you know what would happen? Everyone would rush to your aid and ask if you're okay.
Yep.
They
So
wouldn't. They
you're
would
not.
not be pointing and laughing at you.
No, no, definitely not. And I mean, hey, if it came down to it, I would definitely go up to a stranger and be like, "Hey, look, this is what's going on. Like, can you please help me?"
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's nice to feel like you're not alone.
Yeah. I feel like people have this idea that, like, humans in general are, selfish and um, evil, or that we're overpopulated and humans are just bad for the earth in general. But I like to think, for the most part, that people are just good.
For the most part, definitely.
I mean, there's, at least where I live, not everything is on fire. People behave and follow the laws, and everyone just kind of wants to do their own thing, and everybody wants to be happy, and I don't know. People are
It's
good, I
yeah.
think.
I I don't know. I like to think you'll come across more good people than bad.
Yeah. Otherwise, the world will be on fire.
Literally.
um. So, you've been in this group for how long do you think now? Like a week or so, or a couple weeks?
Maybe a couple weeks.
What do you think?
Um, I like it. I've noticed that I haven't necessarily been like 100% relying on it, but it does help to kind of talk to other people that experience the same thing, and um it's nice to just have like I mean, I guess you could call them friends to talk to, especially if you're, having a bad day or freaking out. Um, you have somebody to kind of lean on. Um, in the chat, at least in the group, um, I haven't really been like trying not to pay too much attention to the actual like group on Facebook,
Yeah,
just
the
because,
group pages are kind of like whatever.
yeah. But I feel like since being in the group on, message, it has definitely been a relief. I am gonna knock on wood after I say this, but I haven't had a panic attack in at least 2 weeks.
Hmm. Have you
So,
have you faced any fears in these 2 weeks?
oh yeah, like driving the other day, I drove down the road, which is small, but it's a victory. I started doing the exposure therapy where I'm just driving around with my boyfriend while he works.
What does he do for work?
He's an exterior inspector, so he goes around and inspects these new houses that are being built. So he literally just gets to drive around all day.
I find that a lot of people, when they're doing exposure therapy, they'll try to just walk and, maybe walk further a little bit each time. Um, every time I talk to those people, I always try to tell them to go do something normal because, like, if you were to not have anxiety, you're not just gonna go walk to your like the end of your block and turn around. And
Right.
you should try to, how far is the store? And if the store's too far, is there anybody you know that can take you there if you can't drive yourself? Like, try to go do something really close, but also normal. Like, go buy a drink or just anything, having
Yeah,
that little small conversation with the cashier of like, hi, how's your day? Oh, here's the change, blah, blah, blah. Like, people don't realize how awesome that is until they don't have it.
exactly. I mean, on our weekends, we'll still go out places. Like, we'll go to, the grocery store, or um, it's called the marketplace over here, but it has like a bunch of different outlets in it. So I'm definitely getting that kind of exposure, which is just being around a bunch of people. And honestly, I don't like people, so that's already a challenge in itself. But um, I will definitely try my best not to just sit in the house, because to me, that makes it worse.
Yeah. Have you tried going anywhere just you recently?
So there's a reason why I haven't, but
Mm.
no, I haven't. We only have one vehicle right now, and by the time my boyfriend gets off, I'm already working, so I can't necessarily leave. Um, but on the weekends, I definitely could try, but I haven't.
How far do you think the drive is to your nearest, like, place you can go buy a drink by yourself?
It's literally like 5 minutes away.
I think that'd be a good, maybe you only get a block, but I think that'd be a good thing to practice to try to go do it by yourself.
Yeah, I can. I
Make
can
sure
definitely try
you're.
that.
So, is there only one vehicle in the house? Like, does your stepmom also have a vehicle?
She does, and I have tried driving her vehicle by myself before, and I had a really bad panic attack in it because it felt like I was claustrophobic. It made me just freak out. So I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not gonna put myself in that
Well,
situation again.
I meant that, like, make sure she's home or her car's home because, like, maybe your boyfriend can be sitting on wait for you to like get to the store and back. And if you feel
Oh
like
yeah.
just having that thought in your head that, okay, even if I were to freak out and have to pull over, I call my boyfriend or my stepmom and they could be here in like 2 minutes, and I just
Yeah.
have to sit here and calm down until they get here. It's
Exactly. And
just,
I've had to do that before.
yeah, it's important to have backup plans, but that sounds like a good goal to have. I, I think the next goal I have is like, obviously I've been super busy with the chat. Honestly, I've been way too busy with the chat. It's been actually kind of hard to um, focus on myself, because last week I was able to, I went to two different stores. I went to the laundromat. I was in a hot car, and I didn't freak out. Um, and I didn't keep that momentum going, and I should have. But, you know, my next goal, I would say, there's a river 20 minutes away from my house, and that's a big drive for me, because I only go in like this 5-minute radius from my house. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to go soon.
I mean, the fact that you even, did what you did previously before you got too busy, that is, to me, that's a huge step.
I felt really good, and then 2 days ago, I think I might have mentioned this to you, but I definitely mentioned it in the chat. I honestly felt like I was just dying. I was sitting next to my wife, and I started to feel like tingly, and maybe the walls were caving in. Not necessarily the walls, but just me was caving in
Yeah.
on myself, and I started to get lightheaded, and I immediately started telling my wife, like, you're gonna have to finish my story for me. I'm about to die. And I got up, and I felt my head or my brain like shift downward, and I had to follow it with my body. Like, it was like a really fast drop. Like, I didn't fall all the way to the ground, but um, pretty close. And I kind of just stood there, and I called my wife over, and I had her squeeze my back, because I have her do that when I panic. So like, I'm focused on her squeeze or whatever. But
Yeah.
I just felt like I was fading away slowly, um, and I went and did my progressive muscle relaxation or whatever after it stopped, just to make sure that is this anxiety or is this something else. And I for the most part, I feel like I can tell the difference, and obviously that's crazy because I have anxiety, and the big thing is I think I'm dying all the time. But I really do think I can tell the difference between having anxiety and something actually wrong. And I've mentioned in the chat, all I drink is Coke, and I just smoke cigarettes all day, and I don't really exercise. And shortly after that, I put on my VR headset, and I started playing Beat Saber, and my arm got a little less tingly, and I haven't felt like that since. So um, sometimes, even though we do manifest all these physical symptoms, sometimes there's some real shit. And especially if someone is agoraphobic, or doesn't really go anywhere that much, you need to move your body. And you got to try to be healthy. Even if you're not going anywhere, not doing anything, you got to still train. I like to think of it as like, even though I'm not leaving, maybe I'll try to work out, or eat healthy, but I'm training for the day that I do end up leaving my house. Because normal people, at least, a lot of people who don't work from home or don't work on a computer, they're on their feet for 8 hours a day. And I have not done that in so long. So
Yep.
I just, you got to prepare your body for real life.
You do. And I, me personally, I have tried exercise before to release some of that anxiety, and it's not for everybody. Um, it definitely kind of made it worse, but I feel like even just starting out with changing your diet has a lot to do with your mood. And if you're eating better, then you're going to feel better. And which obviously is going to cause you not to have so much anxiety from just worrying about, regular aches and pains. Um, Staying hydrated other than drinking Coke is
Yeah.
definitely a big start. Um, I was going to say something. What you were experiencing, I feel like to me that sounds like you kind of depersonalized there for a second and it scared you. especially the whole like your body was caving in on itself. I have felt like that from time to time, and it is absolutely terrifying. Um, and kind of definitely like an out of body experience. But like you said, like you're gonna get new symptoms each time, and you're gonna have to learn what those symptoms are. Um, and again, like you said, just know the difference between if there's actually something wrong or if this is just your anxiety. Because your anxiety can give you those symptoms that feel like there's actually something wrong, but there's not. Um, and I tell everybody this, it's definitely a good idea to get checked up. You know, just seeing a regular doctor and getting, I guess,
Mm.
I know. You can even just do like do do a telehealth, like video chat. Um, something that is going to tell you and remind you that there's nothing wrong. Like for me, going to the hospital and getting that blood work done, that to me is my safe space of there's nothing wrong. Um, and like I said, if it was going to happen, it would have already happened by now.
Yeah, I actually caved a few months ago. My calf was starting to get bigger than my other calf, and it still is. Not getting bigger, but it just is bigger. And my brain went to blood clot, and I'm looking up all this shit, and if I walk or exercise, it might shoot up into my heart and I'll die. So, um, I went to urgent care, which is not that far, and they said they couldn't do the scan or whatever, so they referred me to this place that was going to do like an ultrasound. And I tried to keep myself separate, like at least my anxiety separate from I think no matter what situation you're in normally, like worrying will only make it worse. Like even if something's wrong with you, worrying about it, like I don't know, you hear stories of people beating cancer or tumors miraculously like disappearing. I think having a positive mindset and just not thinking the worst or thinking negative, obviously I think it affects your health. And it turned out I didn't have a blood clot, but yeah, getting that peace of mind definitely, like I came out of there smiling, I'm not dying,
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
yeah.
And I'm honestly the same way. Like my brain will automatically go to, oh, it's a blood clot or a tumor or uh, I don't know, a heart problem. Like my therapist the other day told me that I needed to go get my heart scanned to make sure there was nothing wrong because she ended up having like an underlying heart problem and never knew about it for like 20 years. And I was like, well, don't tell me that because now I'm going to freak out.
Right.
Um, so I have a heart scan at the end of August. So just to have that peace of mind that there's nothing wrong, but I agree. It'll definitely help you breathe better. Just relax. I know that's easier said than done, but sometimes you gotta take a chill pill. I
Yeah.
tell myself all the time, you gotta calm down, like just relax.
And sometimes you have to stop listening to yourself. Like in
Yeah,
reality, your mind is what got you here, and sometimes it's important to let other people, like a doctor or a therapist or someone helpful, to say, hey, you're okay, and you need to try to believe them because they're telling you the truth.
yeah. Like especially if they come back and say it's just anxiety. That is that should be your way of saying like your thought process should immediately go, okay, well, then there's something that I need to do internally, like in my head, to make this kind of better in a way for myself. Um, but yeah, I mean, it is all in our head. We're
Yeah.
just, we're not crazy, but we're just a little
We're
special.
just a little unwell.
Yeah, a little mentally unstable,
You know that song?
a little unwell.
No, it's I'm not crazy. I'm just a little unwell. I don't
Yes,
know.
I do.
Okay. Yeah, I just try to connect it there. I don't know. So I asked you to write stuff down. I'm not sure if we got through everything that you had to
Oh, let's see.
say.
We sure did.
We sure did. Well, I've lost my mind. I don't know if there's anything else you had to say, or maybe say, for someone who's just going through this, or maybe they've been through it a long time. Is there anything you think you could say to someone like that might be encouraging or hopeful, or suggestions of what they could do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always willing to help people and tell them like different coping skills that have helped me personally. Um, my biggest thing is to just make sure that you do have that moral support, because that's definitely going to be kind of where you start out at. And then it takes a lot of, I guess, self-control. You're going to have those days where you just physically can't, I guess, get out of bed or even think straight. There has to be times where you got to be strict with yourself and, make yourself do things that make you feel uncomfortable. Don't get yourself into the habit of restricting yourself from certain things, like living your freaking life. Um, it's not permanent. It's definitely temporary. Even if you get over it and then get it again, it's a fight that you can win. You've done it before. Um, Again, you're not alone. Just always remember you're not alone. There's always support. Um, and just remember you're doing the damn thing. I mean, you're still here. So I just want everybody to know that they will get through it. Um, if you have to cry it out sometimes, cry it out. But get up every day and put in effort so it doesn't get worse. And that is what I have to say.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned there, I think self-talk is important. You said that you've been through this before, and I had to do that a lot. Like when I felt like I couldn't breathe, I was gonna pass out, or my heart's going, I'm gonna have a heart attack, and I'm gonna die. None of those things have ever happened to me, and I am always okay. I definitely have anxiety, so when you are feeling, you know, like everything's going berserk, just try to tell yourself, like, again, as you said, this has happened before. I've gotten through it. I know I have anxiety, and try to convince yourself, or prove yourself wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to get better unless you do convince yourself, and remind yourself that all the symptoms that you're experiencing has already been something that you've been through. It's nothing new. It is scary, but it's not going to kill you. Anxiety is not going to kill you. Panic disorder is not going to kill you. It's just a temporary feeling that will eventually go away. It just requires a little bit more effort and fight. It's definitely not something easy to go through, and not everybody is going to understand it, but you know, as long as you have it in your head, you know what you're going through, and um, like, I guess, what kind of sets you off and what makes you comfortable, just stick to that, and then eventually, you're gonna go away. Like for me personally, not you're gonna go away. It's gonna go away, but
You're gonna go away for a long
you're gonna
time.
go away.
Straight to
Me
jail.
personally, has been something that has helped me, and part of the reason why I haven't had as much not as much anxiety, but the panic attacks that I was experiencing, is because I'm reminding myself, like, yes, this is a problem, but you've been what, this many days without it. So just reminisce on the good days that you have. Don't think back on the bad days. Because if you think back on the bad days, it's just going to, you know, bottle up inside, and then eventually it's going to explode and you're going to have another episode. But if you think about the good, then it's going to be okay. You're going to get through it. Eventually you're going to have where you go like 3 weeks to a month without any panic attacks or, bad anxiety. It's just a work in progress.
Yeah, you mentioned pushing yourself, and I think sitting on your couch, not looking outside, or like me, drinking soda and smoking cigarettes and maybe playing video games. All that's easy. You know, food that tastes good most of the time it's bad for you. Like
Hmm.
water doesn't really have a taste, but it's like the best thing for you. And
Exactly.
broccoli, unseasoned or uncooked, it seems like the harder choices you make lead to you feeling better and doing better. So I know the fear is probably overwhelming and terrifying, but the more you avoid it, the bigger it is, and the more you face it, the smaller it gets. So push.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing that you can do for yourself is to not avoid it. Do not avoid it. The best thing is just to let it run its course and accept the fact that you just went through what you went through and just, you know, keep chugging along. That's all you can do.
Well, I'm excited to hear about you going to the store and you raw dogging it the way there, and yeah, I don't know if that's all you had, but that's all I got for now.
Yeah, my brain is officially fried. That's it.